Good morning. My name is Paul Granillo, and I'm the President and CEO of the Inland Empire Economic Partnership. And it's my pleasure to welcome you today to this webinar. This webinar comes to you because of work that's being done in the Inland Empire region with a regional economic and workforce recovery task force. And one of the priorities of that task force, which is co-chaired by Supervisor Janice Rutherford from San Bernardino County, Supervisor Karen Spiegel from Riverside County, the chair of the Inland Empire Economic Partnership, Peter Villegas, and board member Al Arguello, is a need to focus on our small business community, to give you as much help and understanding of a very, very difficult situation. So in order for you to make the best decisions possible. And so today's webinar is really an opportunity to listen to other business owners and to listen to a group of technical experts. And we're all here to be of assistance to you. Towards the end of the webinar, we're going to be taking questions. We'd ask you to put those questions into the chat. So want to start with a conversation about a company that's doing okay. And so I'm pleased to introduce Connie Threlkel, president of Good Faith Medical Transportation Company. She's born and raised in the Philippines. So the youngest of 5 children, studied at the Universidad de Santo Tomas in the Philippines, and is the president owner of Good Faith Medical Transportation since 1992. Good Faith Medical Transportation, Inc. is a non-emergency medical transportation company that serves the community of San Bernardino for 28 years. Connie is a board member of St. Bernardine Medical Center in San Bernardino, one of the founding members of the Women of Dignity, St. Bernardine Medical Center, and a member of several organizations, including the California Medical Transportation Association, Inland Association for Continuity of Care, and Inland Empire Disabilities Collaboration, and the California Medical Transportation Association. Connie is also a 2-time finalist for the Spirit of the Entrepreneur Award, presented by the Inland Empire Center for Entrepreneurship at my alma mater, CSUSB. Connie, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for a good introduction. Good morning, everybody. My name is Connie Threlkel, President Owner of Good Faith Medical Transportation. For over 28 years, Good Faith has had its shares of challenges, the ups and downs of business, and we have had experiences. We have not had experiences like these. This pandemic has affected a lot of businesses. We saw a lot of businesses closing down, people losing their jobs, but I say that we have to adapt to every challenge that comes our way. We will not run away from it, but face it head on. I've told my employees that this too shall pass away. COVID-19 has affected our transportation business. We have lost 99.9% of the people who are going for medical appointments because right now they're doing telehealth. Most of our patients want to do the face-to-face appointment with doctors, but they cannot do that. We have this challenge of hiring drivers too, as many transportation providers have shared with me. But thank God my employees have not resigned and take the option of unemployment. But we are needing more drivers. It's one of our challenges. Financial tools. We have availed of the PPP, the EIDL fund, the SBA emergency fund, the grant from the county for being a compliant partner, and the CARE Act that has given grants to medical providers. Right now, we are waiting for the second round of the PPP. Other business owners should look at attending webinars and other events that help us navigate these challenges. As a SRIM member, Society of Human Resources Management, I regularly look at ideas on how to help in the HR department. A member of the California Medical Transportation Association, we meet every week. I also have a good resource, the Inland Empire Small Business, and Carla Gonzalez, I've invited her to talk to our networking group to help the small business owners find out resources. We also have to be certified with a small business, with a minority group, disadvantaged veterans, and get resources from government contracts. Resources leveraged in the past, I have reached out to other medical transportation providers, to other providers such as hospitals, skilled nursing facilities, hospices, to get contracts from them. So we will continue to fight this. As I told my employees, this too shall pass away. So that's my sharing for today. And thank you for the opportunity to be here to share with you my experience with the transportation company. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you for letting us know how you've been able to keep going. So thank you very much for sharing. Now we want to turn to Maritza Gomez. Maritza. So Maritza is going to talk to us about how she's decided to pause and retool. And so Maritza founded MG Custom Printing in 2014 with her mother. Maritza believes in putting her own personal stamp on things and being as original as you want to be. MG Custom Printing supplies digital decoration of marketing products and personalized gifts. The company contributes to the growth of other entrepreneurs and artists. Maritza has not always felt bold and brave or championed being an original because she was a dreamer, an undocumented immigrant brought to the United States as a child. Although she faced many obstacles along the way, Maritza has been resilient and undaunted in her mission of being a college educated and owning a business. Not only is she CEO of MG Custom Printing, but also is a proud graduate of California State University, San Bernardino, with a Bachelor of Business Administration degree with a concentration on entrepreneurship. Maritza is one of 47 women featured in the new book, The Next Bold Move, by #1 best-selling author Tara Flores Sloan in 2016. Maritza is a business counselor for the Inland Empire Women's Business Center. She's part of the executive board and marketing director of the National Association of Women Business Owners of the Inland Empire. Maritza, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Like you said, Maritza Gomez, owner of MG Custom Printing. Something that I feel that my background has really made me more resilient to COVID. Being an undocumented entrepreneur, I didn't really have a lot of resources when I first started my business, but I am thankful that I was able to build that resiliency to be able to face COVID. When I started the business, I did a lot of networking. I networked and attended workshops as much as I could to build my network. Since we don't have a brick and mortar location, we do work out of our home. So for when we went to sell our merchandise, we went to pop-up events. So we would pop up our store at Cal State San Bernardino, at the Day of the Dead Festival in downtown Riverside, at the Magnolia Marketplace, anywhere that they would allow us, we were there. But now because of COVID, we can't do that. So what we did instead, we reached back to our network and asked, and they supported us. They continued to refer us to their friends. So this is why we continue to grow. I thought that because of COVID, we were gonna slow down. I didn't know what was gonna happen, but my business has continued to grow. I used to order maybe about five cases of mug a week, but now in the month of July, we actually had 3 deliveries of 3 pallets of mugs, and just yesterday we had a pallet delivery of 30 cases of mugs, and that is all because of our resources. And also because I was formerly undocumented, but thankfully I am documented now, I was able to apply for the PPP and the EIDL loan. So I received those back in May, and that has really helped me continue to build my inventory to make sure that I'm providing to my customers. And something that I've always encouraged any business owner, regardless of their position, if they're startup or if they've already been in business for so many years, take advantage of COVID, because everybody is going digital. That means that you can attend a workshop from the comfort of your own home, a workshop that's being presented in Florida, in New York. You have that ability to connect with people outside of California. And the resources that I have used since day one have been the Inland Empire Women's Business Center, the Inland Empire Center of Entrepreneurship, and the SBA. I've also had SCORE mentors that have really pushed me and been there for me to, as somebody that didn't have a mentor, a family member to look up to and say, like, I need help with the business. The IEWBC became that family. They became my big sister, where they guided me and encouraged me to take that leap of faith. And an experience as an undocumented entrepreneur, I would say that a lot of undocumented, I'm not talking for everybody, but just on my behalf, California has allowed us to start our businesses, but because of COVID, there really isn't a lot of resources that are available to them, and more like financial assistance. They are able to pay their taxes and everything else, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, there isn't anything available for them to continue their business right now. And today is actually our 6-year anniversary. So I am super happy and excited to be sharing it with all of you, sharing it with the people that have actually been there for me, pushing me along the way.
Thank you. That's a great story.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate that. Okay, we want to talk a little bit about these stories that you've just heard. And so I'd like to invite a subset of our panelists to join us. So Xiomara Pena, the California Program Director and National Latino Entrepreneurship Director for the Small Business Majority. Dr. Mike Stull, Director of Cal State San Bernardino School of Entrepreneurship and the Inland Empire Center for Entrepreneurship. Catherine Marshall, Executive Director of the Micro Enterprise Collaborative of Inland Southern California. Godfrey Hines, Lead Economic Development Specialist for Orange County Inland Empire District Office of the United States Small Business Administration. Irina Kim, Program Support Assistant for the Orange County Inland Empire District Office of the U.S. Small Business Administration. And Adam Johns, Outreach and Marketing Specialist with the Small Business Administration. Thank you all for being with us today. Good to see you. Okay. Mike, I want to start with you because there's another category that we want to discuss, and that's business owners who are making the hard decision to close their business. Can you talk a little bit about that scenario, what they should do, what they shouldn't do, and then we'll open it up to the rest of the panel.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for putting this together for the small business community. Delighted to be a part of this, despite the circumstances. Yeah, as you mentioned, there are one of the themes that came out. I think if listening to both Maritza and Connie is that the kind of getting through this pandemic has required an incredible amount of resilience and persistence, what we would call, and kind of when we look at entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs, we call it grit. Are they able to kind of persevere against long odds? And that kind of comes with the territory. But there are times where businesses, business owners, and the business itself sort of reaches that point where they think, boy, I don't know if we can go on. Maybe we need to pause, or maybe we need to shut this down. And that's a difficult decision. And in fact, from our experience, most of the time, most entrepreneurs hang on much longer than they probably should have. And, because they are so resilient and so focused on trying to make the business go and survive. But if you're at that point, I think it really boils down to how can you reasonably and kind of thoughtfully wind down a business. And clearly that's not easy to do because it's an emotional process, not just a business process, because you've invested an incredible amount of time, energy, and commitment to the business. And so there's a lot of emotions that get tied up into it. I remember working with an entrepreneur that had failed and basically was getting very emotional about it, and come to find out that the failure had happened almost 10 years ago. So she still carried that incredible emotional sort of, not baggage, but sort of that event, the trauma with her. But if you're going to be looking at, boy, there's no way we're going to get out of this, and maybe it's time to wind it down, I always kind of break it up into about sort of 4 categories. I think of, and I don't want to dive too deep because I want to allow for discussion and questions, and other input from the panelists. But I always look at the kind of the financial aspect of it. Really kind of looking at collecting any money that you're currently owed, paying all your bills, liquidating the assets of the business, making sure you resolve any financial commitments or tax obligations, those kind of things. You really have to sit down and take a financial snapshot and look at, from a financial perspective, what needs to be done. Those are some of the key things. Legally, if you're a corporation or an LLC, you need to be looking at dissolving that, right? Winding that down. If you have any registrations, permits, licenses, contracts, you need to be looking at legally, how do I wind those down? Obviously, very upfront, you have to be transparent about the process, notifying employees, suppliers, customers. I think the one thing that I always tell business owners is, if they're going to be going through this kind of an event where they're going to be shutting down a business, to do it as gracefully as possible, and to retain as much of the goodwill of the business and your own personal reputation as you can as you go through that process. So when you're really upfront with employees, when you tell your suppliers, you tell your customers, when you honor your existing obligations, if you have outstanding commitments to customers or suppliers, and you honor those as best you can, complete those jobs and do those kind of things, you're going to go. It's much better than just you simply shut the doors and nobody hears from you again, and everybody wonders what happened with ABC company, what happened to Mike, and that's usually when you get people starting to talk, and well, I heard this, because if you're an entrepreneur, small business owner, it's like, even if this does happen and you end up shutting down your business, we know from working with many entrepreneurs and small business owners that they're going to come back in the future. And it's going to be in that same community, and how you kind of went out the door is going to affect how you come back in the door, so to speak. And I think that's a really, from my perspective, that how you handle it. People know that failure is a part of the process. And in fact, if we were in Silicon Valley, they would say, well, if you haven't failed, you're not an entrepreneur, you're not a small business owner, right? So I think the way you do it, the how, I think is really important, and how you leave, exit the business and make everything right as much as you can, will set you up, because inevitably, I think most entrepreneurs and small business owners, even if they experience this kind of setback, they're going to come back into business later on. It goes back, you don't want to burn any bridges. You want people to be sort of welcoming you back. And remember that, boy, that was a tough situation that they went through, especially with the COVID, right? It's understandable. These are things that we can't control. In some cases, a lot of stuff we can control, but some of it we can't. And so I think that, from my perspective, kind of a 30,000 foot level view, without going into the specific details and a work plan and all those kind of things. Those are the key things I would usually hit when I talk to somebody about winding down a business.
No, that's great, Mike. Taking a look at the finances, winding down your commitments, being transparent and honest, and honoring those commitments. And it's hard to be a small business owner anyway, let alone in the time of a global pandemic, right?
Right.
That makes, being face to face with people almost impossible. So I think that's good advice, and we want them to come back, and we want them to be able to come back as quickly as possible, but you can't just throw the keys in the mailbox and walk away, because that'll get in the way of coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And small business owners are such a vital part of our economy regionally. I was just working on a report the other day and looking at San Bernardino County as an example. And 97% of the businesses in San Bernardino County would be categorized as small businesses. So they're a huge part of the economy. And we know that this is just part of a cycle, and that businesses are going to fail, and small businesses will restart, and entrepreneurs will come back in the game, and that's necessary. And so that goes back to what Connie and Maritza were saying about resiliency. Even in the face of failure, being resilient and having the confidence to come back in and jump back into the game at a later stage, I think is vital, because if we don't have those type of people, this region isn't going to prosper.
Right, right. No, Mike, thank you for setting up that third category. While I have you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll have the other panelists do the same.
Absolutely. Thanks, Paul. I am the son of small business owners. My parents started their business when I was 5 years old. I grew up around the business, ended up working in the business, from the time I could grab a broom and help out, and then ended up running the business for a number of years. Then went off and actually ended up working for the Inland Empire Economic Partnership many years ago, and then ended up at Cal State San Bernardino, where I am currently the director of the Inland Empire Center for Entrepreneurship and director of the new School of Entrepreneurship at Cal State San Bernardino. And the Center for Entrepreneurship is dedicated to supporting and promoting and celebrating small business and entrepreneurship in the Inland Empire region. And we do that through a variety of educational programs and resources for both students and the community. And as a part of this event today, we have 3 of our top tier programs: the Inland Empire Small Business Development Center, the Inland Empire Women's Business Center, and also our Coachella Valley Women's Business Center, and our State Trade Expansion Program. 3 really impactful programs that are helping small business owners every day to recover and build resiliency to be successful in the future.
Great, thank you. Congratulations on the School of Entrepreneurship.
Thank you. Yeah, the first and only School of Entrepreneurship in the state of California, and one of less than 15 in the United States.
Go Coyotes.
Yes.
Catherine, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm the executive director of the Microenterprise Collaborative of Midland Southern California. And I've been in small business development for over 30 years. And before that, my very first business was a landscape business. That was a lot of hard work. And and I have been a business counselor. I have developed a small business curriculum to teach people how to start businesses and how to sell as a business owner. For 9 years, I managed the state associations of microenterprise programs. And I've also helped start business coalitions and collaboratives around the country to support small business development. And the last 6 years, I've been managing the Microenterprise Collaborative. Now, the collaborative itself has been, it's composed of 700 partners. They're all chambers and banks and nonprofits and government agencies that all support small business development. And I don't know if here's a spot where where you're just doing a short introduction right now. Is that right? Or we're gonna?
Yeah.
Wanted to show.
But I'll let you tell.
I wanted to show my website, so I didn't know if you guys wanted to see that, but we can do that later too. But anyway, so our whole purpose is to really build jobs and businesses for small business in the Inland Southern California area. So we're not direct service providers, but we have the service providers that are there. Yeah, let me know if we're supposed to look at the web tool, or we can do that later. So that's fine.
Okay, all right. Godfrey?
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me here. I am Godfrey Hines. I'm the lead economic development specialist for the office of the SBA Orange County Inland Empire. And I know Irene is here with me this morning. She's one of the newest members to our team. As you may be aware, the SBA has responded to the crisis that we're facing in the form of an economic injury disaster loan and a payroll protection program loan, which has had tremendous impact, not just on the Inland Empire, but on the state of California and whole land. I'll be here later on to explain any of the programs and the services that we have to assist our small business community, not just to survive during this period of time, but we're beginning to look post-COVID. How do we recover from this, and how do we get back with a sense of reality or normality to where we were before COVID? And what services that the SBA has and the partnerships that the SBA has. I think we have a wide array of services and programs that can assist small businesses, not just to survive, but in the unfortunate event that they would have to close or may have to close. Like Mike has stated, we have to look at what is the future. If you ever want to come back, make sure you have left a good, at least a clean slate where you can restart and rebuild. And as always, the SBA will be here to provide those much needed services, either from our end or in conjunction with our partnerships, to assist our small business community to rebuild, to retrain, rethink, retool, and hopefully in the future, we can rebuild our community back to a sense of where it was a couple of months ago.
Thank you, Godfrey. Irina?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Irina Kim. I'm the Program Support Assistant for the Orange County Inland Empire District Office. And I've just been, helping out with all the marketing and communications regarding all the SBA programs, mostly at the EIDL program and the PPP, and really just trying to gain exposure, through those programs for the general public.
Great, thank you for being with us. Ziomara, are you there? And Adam?
Good morning, this is Adam. So I am the Outreach and Marketing Specialist for the Small Business Administration's Orange County Inland Empire District Office. Currently, I'm the newest member of the team there. I started in May with the agency, and previously I was actually working for the Pomona Swap Meet and Classic Car Show as their operations manager for 8 years or so. So that was a very small business, so I understand a lot of the challenges that our small business owners face. After starting with the agency, I actually did a temporary detail with the loan center to, as a loan officer, processing the economic injury disaster loans. So that actually gave me a lot of knowledge, and so now our office can be very helpful to business owners who are in that application process or who still need to apply. And one of the things that Maritza mentioned that I think is really key to small business owners is making connections and taking advantage of resources. That's something that a lot of small business owners don't always realize what's available to them. And that's kind of one of our goals, is to make sure that as many people are aware of our programs as possible, so that they can not only survive this pandemic, but possibly thrive the way Maritza's business has. We're still finding that there are still people who are just now applying for the economic injury disaster loan. And the program is still open, but that's one of the things that we would hope is that these business owners learn about and are able to take advantage of different programs available to them, so that they're not left behind. And we welcome this opportunity, and we're looking forward to being able to help with this process.
Thank you, Adam. Ziomara, are you there? Okay, I think she's having a little technical trouble. Want to turn to the panel, and if possible, maybe we can bring Connie and Maritza back. Mike, what resonated with you when you heard those stories?
Well, I think, you can kind of hear the underlying sort of optimistic focus on the opportunity mindset that they both have. There's a challenge in front of them. They're going to face it head on. Maritza talked about resources. I think, we've talked before about how small business owners need to have a good network of peers that, that can help each other. I also thought Maritza made a great comment about the fact that we kind of have to, as small business owners, we now have to recognize that a lot of the things that we took for granted are now going to change, are changing and going to change in the future, particularly as it relates to doing business digitally and the expectations around that, because we're going to come out of this pandemic, but it's going to change the way we work and the way consumers interact with us. I think that was a really, really big takeaway for me, is that reminding us that, one, there's resources out there. Maritza talked about using the resources. Connie talked about how, staying optimistic and, recognizing that this is, if you've been around long enough, as many of us have, that these things happen. It's just part of the life cycle of a business, of an economy. And you have to learn how to write it out. So I think, Connie put it into a good perspective that, this is going to pass, and how we deal with it and how we, adjust and get ready to come out of it is super important. So for me, resources, the attitude and the approach of how I'm dealing with this, and staying focused and staying optimistic about making it through this, that goes back to that grit thing I was talking about earlier. And then really embracing new ways of doing things, because it's going to be a requirement really coming out of all this.
All right, thanks, Mike. Catherine, speaking about resources, do you want to show us your tool? It's really wonderful.
Sure. And I just want to congratulate Maritza and Connie. I think one of the things I was impressed with, both of them, there was a theme running through both of their presentations about the loyalty that they're able to inspire. Connie spoke about her loyal employees and really hanging with her, and I was just so impressed with that. And Maritza seemed to be able to tap into her customers and their loyalty. So just relying on those folks to give new ideas about what direction they need, or as a team, I think that's really important. So yes, I would like to, I'm getting a little help here. If somebody could show John could show our website there, that would be great.
Sure thing.
Laura.
And here we go.
So one of the main reasons that the collaborative exists, its strategy that it has there, is that we're trying to connect all the wonderful resources that we have in the region. Most of them are free or very low cost, trying to connect those folks to the business owners that need their help. One of the biggest mistakes an entrepreneur can do is, if they need money, just to get on the web and start searching for a loan. And there's just a lot of predators out there. And we just really want to caution everyone about doing that. People may be impatient and want to go out there, and I know Xiomara, you'll speak to that one too here, but you want to go out there and get that funding, and don't want to do all the paperwork that's necessary. And there's people that are just waiting out there to just sock it to you. And we've some of our service providers, business service providers, have really seen some really sad stories of people, trying to get them out of these terrible loans that have really drained them. So what we've tried to do is, if you're going to be on the web, let's be on the web, but let's show all the resources that are out there. So this is our website, and I'd
Catherine, I think we lost your audio. No, still not. Okay, why don't we keep working on it? And I want to, while Catherine's getting her audio back, Godfrey, let's go back to Mike's presentation on having to shut down. Do you have any reflections on that for people that are in that category?
Definitely, I've ultimately, the last thing that we would want to see here at the SBA is that any business has to shutter its doors. But unfortunately, during these conditions which we're facing, it is a possibility. And as Mike has so eloquently stated, you want to make sure that you leave the stage gracefully and making sure that all your bases are covered. It's not our business owners' fault sometimes that they have to shut the door. We understand these circumstances, but if there's an opportunity to recover and return and restart, then that business owner has to be mindful that you're going to need some of the same resources that you used in the past. So those relationships and having those bridges, and there's a term I usually use, keeping that bridge clean to make sure that you can transit if you need to, is very critical to a business owner. The SBA has a wide array of programs and services that can assist small businesses. We have consultants with our Small Business Development Center. We have counselors with our SCORE chapter. We have a Women's Business Center. We have a VBOX. So these are all programs and services that can assist a small business owner. So I would say that before you make that, decision to finally close those doors or whatever, consult with the SBDC, consult with SCORE, get a professional, maybe some counseling from an attorney, from an accountant, from someone that knows the business and the operations and the intricacies of those businesses, where you can close gracefully, knowing that if the occasion does arise, you have those resources are still available to you, and the SBA is still available to you, where you can probably capitalize on the programs, loan programs and loan services. Usually if a business or an individual is delinquent on federal debt, it makes it very hard to come back and secure financing through the SBA or another federal agency. So those are things that the business owner needs to be mindful of, that, if this permanent or not permanent, you need to make sure, like Mike said, your bills are paid. If you are incorporated, how do you shut it down and comply with local, state, and federal guidelines? So there's a lot more than just the basic close your door. As a business owner, you should be mindful of those services that can help you do that gracefully. Just in case you have to get back on the stage, you want to make sure the stage is still there for you. So that would be my recommendation. Utilize our services. SCORE, the SBDC, and the services are free. So, if they can assist you, why not use it? I used to work at the USDA for 27 years, and the saddest day on my job was having to foreclose on anybody. It is a sad day, but we still treat those individuals with respect and with dignity. Failure is not the end of the world. Sometimes it can happen, especially now when these circumstances are totally beyond your control. None of us a year ago ever anticipated that we would be where we are today. I'm working at home since March, and I can tell anyone I would rather be in the office. That is what I've done for 28 years. So as a business owner, you have to be creative. You have to reinvent yourself. And as the two, Connie and Marisa, have so eloquently stated, they utilize the SBA's programs and services. They got the PPP, they got the EIDL. That is assistance that's there for you. Reach out and get that assistance. If there's other services that you may need, seek those services. I think the worst thing a business owner can do is to walk away and realize there were programs and services that could have assisted them to stay afloat and maybe make it through the bad times till the better times came. So I would make that suggestion. Seek those resources, utilize every resource that's available, and before you make that decision, because it makes it much easier to have what we call an amicable relationship. In spite, if you cannot pay the SBA, you cannot pay the SBA. The government understands that. There's programs and services to assist you.
Thank you. Maritza, Connie, want to go back to you. You're both tied into Cal State San Bernardino and the School of Entrepreneurship and the resources. But, you know, for some small business owners maybe watching this, you know, SBA, SBDC, CSUSB, all kinds of alphabet, right? They've got this pressure of just trying to make payroll and pay rent. And so walk them through that. You know, where should they go, and you know, let them know that they shouldn't be afraid to make the phone call. But just tell us a little bit, what's your advice for them trying to work through this maze?
As a business owner, I know that there will always be challenges on the road. There's always big risks. But I think my advice is my employees, some of my employees have been with me for more than 20 years. I think you treat them well. It's a relationship. We have to walk hand in hand with them, appreciating them, knowing that they are very important to the business. Go to the small business center. You know, I have a long relationship with the Inland Empire Small Business Center, and I've turned to them for whatever help I needed, be it social media, accounting, business plans. And then, just like the others have said, look at all your resources, avail of them, and then ask your creditors. No, creditors right now are very lenient and extending help to those who cannot really make it. Or you can probably request them to lower your interest rate. And then go networking, you know, spread your wings and look at every possible way to help yourself, and don't give up. Don't give up. As I said before, this too shall pass away. So we have a lot of resources. We have help from, I've seen a lot of helps from the different counties. You know, they're giving grants, the different cities. So go to them, and we should not be intimidated or be afraid, or, you know, saying that I don't need help. We need help. So let us help one another, and you know, go forward. And just like Mike said, if you really have to close your doors, pray about it, and then do the necessary right steps to do it decently, and talk to your creditors. But this too shall pass away. So this is a good webinar to attend, and I thank so much everybody for being here. It's a big help to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Maritza, your perspective, especially for some of our, you know, really small minority-owned businesses. What's your suggestion for how they should go about reaching out?
I would recommend definitely reach out to the Inland Empire Women's Business Center. It's not only for women, we help men as well, but there's also the SBDC. Just go and make that one appointment, pick up the phone, call. It's completely free, and there's plenty of resources. You can actually talk to somebody that's been through your shoes, that knows the startup process. And if you just started your business and didn't know or don't know what you're doing, or you, right now is a great time to reach forward and see, check the resources, write a business plan. If you didn't have a business plan before, this is a great opportunity, I would say, to regroup and see exactly what the next 3 years are going to look like. Because like you said, everything is changing. Our new normal may be this, where we're meeting people on the computer, but that's also something that we have to think ahead. Me as a small business owner, that helped me a lot. When I started the business, I went through the It's Your Time program. It allowed me to research my industry, know who my target market was, and also forecast for the next 3 years. So this is a great opportunity to revisit or start a business plan. And the IEWBC can help with that. The SBDC can help with that. Is SCORE Mentor. Our community, the Inland Empire, has so many resources out there where we're all connected in one way or another that are going to help us. I mean, and I put myself out there. Even if I wasn't a business counselor, I would still be helping business owners. I say it on my social media. I share all of my resources on my social media. But if you need assistance, if you need to talk to somebody, we are here for you. I am here for you. If you don't have that support at home, because sometimes the small business owners or family or friends may not believe, they may not see your vision like the way that we do, but having mentors and counselors with the different resources that are not going to judge us, and they're going to actually help us see, look at our business from an outside point of view.
Thank you. Mike, along those lines, you and I have talked about the importance of mentorship, and where we'd like to see the region be in that. But you got to make sure you're talking to the right people, right? So what's your reflection on mentorship and business owner to business owner outreach?
Yeah, I think, I always recommend that business owners have multiple resources available to them at all times. And, one, I think that every business owner should be taking advantage, Maritza and Connie mentioned it, they should be taking advantage of the resources that are out there, the resources that, I've worked with for a number of years and are part of my program, the Women's Business Center, the Small Business Development Center, the State Trade Expansion Program. Those are programs that are funded by the Small Business Administration. We're an SBA resource partner. Those resources are available at no cost. In most cases, a few cases, some workshops and seminars may be low cost, but the business counseling is always free, and it's there. And I know from being a former SBDC business counselor many years ago, is that I had clients that would come in, and we were always focused on a goal, and we were always working towards helping their business. And it really, we played the role of counselor, coach, and mentor. And I think it also, as Maritza said, sometimes your family is a support, but also business owners, sometimes you need that external, I always say Michael Jordan, in my opinion, the greatest basketball player ever, had a coach. He always had a coach. He always had a personal trainer. He always had somebody to help keep him accountable and focused, because that's hard to do all by yourself. So I think definitely taking advantage of those resources. And then the other thing I'm a big fan of is business owners, whether they're doing it through a formal program or they're just doing it informally amongst themselves, is creating these connections. It was mentioned by both Connie and Maritza about building your networks, and having a group that that just get together. I remember my father, as a business owner, had a small group of business owners in the community, and they would get together for coffee, and they would talk about their businesses and the problems they were having, and the challenges. And that's an opportunity for you to have a group of people that can be supportive, have that ear to hear you, because I can tell you from experience that as a business owner, you don't always want to take that home with you. And sometimes your spouse or your partner doesn't want to hear it, or they can't relate, but your fellow business owners know exactly what you're going through. And maybe they've already been through that, and they can say, oh, this is how I handled it. So having that peer mentoring, I think, can be really, really powerful. And it really doesn't cost anything. You just have to make connections, and you have to create the inertia, and you have to be committed to doing it. But it can pay huge dividends for you to do that. So I'm a big fan of taking advantage of as many resources as you can when it comes to the SBA programs in particular. That's your tax dollars at work. You're paying for that. Get the benefit and the value of it. And the great thing is that those resources, and there's a ton of them out there. And as Catherine mentioned, you can find all those resources. We're part of the Micro Enterprise Collaborative. You can find all those resources at the click of a button, basically. The great thing is you can use them all at the same time. I remember a business that started many years ago that they went to the SBDC, and then they went to the Women's Business Center. They used SCORE. They used everything all at once, and they got the business launched, and they've become this really incredibly successful company. And they said, we got our start with those programs.
Thanks, Mike. Adam, Irina, we're waiting for Congress to do something. We hope soon. There's some business owners right now that are really on the fence. So when it comes to extending fixed costs, trying to make it through right now, what's the best program? What's going to get them the most help the quickest?
Well, as far as our programs, obviously the PPP is closed to new applications as of now, pending any further expansion by Congress. So if they have not yet applied for the economic injury disaster loan, it's still a viable option. That if they fill out the application accurately, correctly, a lot of people can see that money hit their account within 10 days. It can be a very quick process and quick access to capital. Other than that, definitely we would recommend contacting the SBDC, other resources, cities, counties to find out about different grant programs that might be available to them, because that also might be an option for a lot of businesses that could help in the short term. And of course, we do have some of our traditional programs, depending on the business's situation, different 7A loans or revolving credit lines, something like that, that could also possibly help them if they were to work with their private SBA authorized lender. So there are different avenues that might work for a business. And we would hope that they would look into those and take advantage of anything that they have access to and that is available to them.
Great, thanks, Adam. Irina, anything you want to add to that?
Sure, yeah. I just wanted to add that for people who are still new to both of those programs, we do have the SBA has a box account. It's specific to our district office, but we have all of our previous recordings that you can go back and listen in on. And we do a really good job of going step by step on filling out all the forms. And we have different topics. So each day we have, we'll either cover like just the EIDL or focus specifically on PPP forgiveness. And then even EIDL reconsideration for applicants who have gotten declined. So yeah, really just once again, just using those resources, and we really do keep our resources up to date. So yeah, I can go ahead and share that link with Annalisa.
Okay, great, thank you. Xiomara?
Paul, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I just want to mention, we have 4 microlenders that work in our in the area, and they're available on that website to click into. And so if your traditional bank is, turns you down or you're not able to get, oh my God, there it is. If you click on it, that and actually, I get a chance to show you here, but the microlenders have relaxed parameters that you may not run into with your traditional bank. This particular website, you can source those out here by just, and I do want to point out that we can change the language on this page. So if you're a Spanish speaker, you can select a language. So so that's available to you, but just enter the information to so the list is vetted. We have over 40 service providers there, including the 4 microlenders that I wanted to mention. AMPEC, Business Capital, Axion, Opportunity Fund, and CDC Small Business Finance are the ones that we work with regularly, and they work with the Small Business Development Center and the Women's Business Center. So those are good resources for alternative lending.
Great, thank you, Catherine.
There.
Xiomara, are you there?
Yes, and my apologies. I was having technical issues. I had an earlier meeting, so I'm happy to be here with you all. My name is Xiomara Peña. I'm the California Program Director here at Small Business Majority. We are a national nonprofit small business advocacy organization, which also we happen to do some work here in the Inland Empire, and I'm joined by our Southern California Outreach Manager, Latavia Pineda, who is also joining us today. So we have our team here that's designed to, we focus on research, advocacy, and education for the small business and micro entrepreneur community with an emphasis on serving entrepreneurs of color and minority business owners, including women. I do want to just jump in really quickly. I heard a couple of things as I was listening to my fellow panelists here. And I just want to stress for business owners, when we think about, as one of the leaders here in the region, I think one of the things that we pride ourselves in thinking about is our ecosystem. You know, there is an ecosystem that serves to support you in your business trajectory from start to closure or succession planning. And that ecosystem is there, and I always think about it as being 3 core partners. One being the technical assistance centers, small business development centers, SBA, or the advocacy groups that are going to work alongside you, support you in your growth and development. Oftentimes, being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, as mentioned already by the business, can be very, very isolating, whether it's because you can't connect with your partner, your spouse, your family, your friends, it can be very isolating. And so having a person, an organization that will also serve to advocate for you on your behalf in your pathway of developing is critical. The second is an alternative lender. An alternative responsible lender, I should say, because if you can't tap into traditional capital, and right now, given the climate that we're in due to the pandemic, we're going to see a tightening of capital from traditional capital sources. And so de-risk capital that's backed by the state becomes incredibly important. Last week, there was a major announcement by the governor's office around the California Rebuilding Fund, which will look to add additional liquidity to CDFIs, community development financial institutions, which Catherine mentioned, so that they can make more loans to folks that maybe are unable to tap into traditional bank lending. And additionally, for folks that PPP has came and gone, but if you were simply ineligible to qualify because you're a visa holder, an ITIN holder, an undocumented entrepreneur, which here in the Inland Empire is not an uncommon theme, there is resources through the state of California and the iBank program that also provides capital at an affordable rate for folks that were locked out of the federal relief program. So I do want to stress that. So knowing where to go when the bank says no is super important, because otherwise you do go onto the internet and you can fall into a system of online predatory lenders, short-term lenders that are completely abusive. And so knowing where to go when the bank says no is incredibly powerful. And we saw AMPAC, Tri-State CDC, Accion, we have Opportunity Fund, which is also in the Inland Empire. We have a good network of CDFIs there. And the third group in your ecosystem is that peer-to-peer connection, whether it's part of the chamber, whether it's a trade association, and it's simply for you to have a network of peers that you can gather input from, gather ideas about how to move forward. We had a great webinar last week where we had a business owner share how she's been able to pivot, and I know some folks are tired of the word pivot, so how she's been able to shift her business model slightly to be resilient and to grow. And so all to say, there are a tremendous amount of resources, and I recognize I'm talking too much, so I'm going to turn it back over to you, Paul.
No, that's okay. You got caught up. Great input. We want to transition to questions now, and we want to bring on 3 more panelists. Michelle Skilgen, Executive Director of the Inland Empire and Coachella Valley Women's Business Centers. Jeffrey Williamson, Director of the California State Trade Expansion at the Inland Empire Center for Entrepreneurship. Paul Nolta, the Interim Director of Riverside Marietta Temecula Small Business Development Centers. So welcome to all of you.
Thank you very much.
So since you're just joining us, any reflections on what you've heard? I'll start with Michelle.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks for including us. I think that echoing what so many of the panelists have said, reach out and ask for help. I think sometimes we can't see the forest through the trees, and just reaching out and talking to someone, having that sounding board can help you. You know, we often can solve our own problems when we talk to someone else. We have it there and we're just so caught up in our situation that we really can't see as clearly as we need to. So reach out, ask for help. There's fabulous resources here in the Inland Empire. And whether it's one of us, we're here for you. Whether it's, collected, like I know several people mentioned having, like a peer advisory or a networking group of people that are in the same situation, but ask for help. And this has been brought up a few times, and that's the predatory lending. Be very, very careful. I have seen, and I'm sure everybody else can attest to this, clients who've been caught in the predatory lending cycle, and it's frightening, and businesses don't survive it sometimes, especially in the current environment. So please be very, very careful who you trust as it relates to borrowing. So.
Thank you, Michelle. Jeffrey?
Thank you very much, Paul, for inviting me to join, and thank you everybody for your very insightful presentations. My focus is primarily on working with small businesses to help them to export, and in fact, that's a big challenge right now because of the lack of travel and other things. However, as everybody's mentioned, is just reaching out and staying in contact, because a lot of things are developing very quickly. Some services that people paid for previously are now free. In fact, we're hosting virtual trade shows all over the world right now, and we've never seen a bigger response. I mean, that's one of the ways that companies try to reach out and go beyond their immediate geographic area. And since they can't travel, the only thing remaining for many of them, not the only thing, but an option, is to participate in a virtual trade exhibition. And these are going quite well. So I think it's just a matter of keeping in touch. I think networking, talking to others so you find out what's happening and how to plug in. And that's what we're here to help with.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Paul, I'd be interested in your reflections, and the SBDC has been discussed, and maybe we give you a couple minutes to talk about what you do and the resources that you have.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having us. Probably the two key components that you heard this morning, and which Connie and Maritza shared, is that now more than ever, you really have to have that ownership and that ownership mindset, right? As an entrepreneur, you don't take no as an option. And so I applaud you for that, right? I mean, you're not standing back and waiting for somebody to show you a path or guide you through that. You are taking it upon yourself. You're reaching out, you are making it happen, you're looking for results. And it's that kind of thing that's going to get us through this and working together. And so then that's the other side of what you pointed out, is that you can only be as strong as your network, right? And so the stronger the people that you put in your circle, the quicker you're going to get from one point to the other point, and not being afraid to ask for help. And so that kind of leads me to where we're at now, is, with Jeff and Michelle and Catherine, working together, we're building a network to assist. And so at the Small Business Development Center, we really do work to help people start, maintain, or expand their business operations. And we do that via three key ways. One being education. So we do close to 200 workshops a year on everything from HR to taxation to business planning to websites that touch on all aspects of your business. Second part of that is that one-on-one consultation, where we've assembled a team of experts to work with you one-on-one, as long as you want us there, on all different topics. We have everything from a CPA to an HR specialist to a food specialist to a website specialist, procurement. So we've assembled a team of consultants that are happy to work with you on a one-on-one basis. And then last is a link to resources. So whether that's, you know, streamlining the license permit process or getting you in front of the right lenders, that's what we're there to do, and again, make that process easier for you. And we're here to help, so just a phone call away.
Great, thank you, Paul. I've been texted a couple of questions, and then Annalisa from our team is going to ask some of the questions that have been put forth. But Michelle, the first question is for you, and it's what does the Women's Business Center do?
Thanks, Paul. We are a program of the Center for Entrepreneurship. We're in the community to help the small business owner. Similar to Paul, we provide business counseling, training, and mentoring. Of course, everything right now is via Zoom and telephone, as we're operating remotely, but we're here for you. We offer workshops from the basics, starting your business, refining that idea, to QuickBooks and getting your books in order, marketing, social media. We are doing some social events, so we have wine down Friday afternoon, Friday evening, because we're all missing that social aspect of being in business. We have coffee with a counselor, just to, that check-in point. We're here to assist you however we can, whatever you need within our capability. And a lot of times that's just listening to someone, letting someone share where they're at, where they want to go, and then helping you think through step by step what has to happen to get you to your ultimate goal. So counseling, training, mentoring. We are a program partially funded by the U.S. Small Business Administration. And so we're part of that technical assistance team to help you with your business.
Thank you. The next question that I have that's been texted to me is, is there free or reduced legal advice available, and where could they find that?
We do offer a workshop on forms of organization, and the individual that teaches that workshop will do a short consultation with business owners at no charge.
Okay.
I'll also jump in really quickly, Paul. There's an organization called Start Small, Think Big. They're offering free pro bono legal services right now. They were originally based only in the Bay, but because of the pandemic, they've broadened their geographic reach. They offer services in English and in Spanish, all pro bono with top-notch legal experts. And there's also a new organization called One Justice, I believe that's the name, and they've been doing work in the Inland Empire as well. And so I know that they have a whole host of also pro bono legal services that could be accessible for business owners and entrepreneurs.
Great. And what was the first organization again, Xiomara?
Start Small, Think Big.
Start Small, Think Big. Okay, thank you. Annalisa, another resource? Go ahead.
Yeah, there's another resource that formerly has done, more of immigration law and community type law, but they are now going to be offering services for the small business owner, and it's called the Inland Counties Legal Services, inlandlegal.org.
Great, thank you. Annalisa, I'll go to you for the next question.
Great, thank you, Paul. Our next question is for someone from the SBA. A audience member asks, what's your website that I could use as an IE business to get SBA resources? And what do we do if our application was rejected?
So actually, I can send Annalisa like all the links and stuff, but on Thursdays we have a webinar specifically focusing on EIDL reconsideration and decline. So if you wanted to listen in on that, we go kind of more in depth on what to do when their EIDL application gets rejected. If anyone else wants to add on.
Sure, I'll add on. So our website is just going to be www.sba.gov, and from there you can get to all of the SBA's resources, not just our district office's page. But as far as the economic injury disaster loan, the EIDL loan, if you've been declined, I can also provide some assistance and maybe guidance individualized to you for that decline if you are trying to request reconsideration. Obviously, depending on the reason for the decline, there's different requirements that might be needed. So feel free, you can give me a call. I can give you my phone number right now, 714-564-2804. You can also call our office line and they can connect you to me, but we can definitely help you out with that process.
Okay. Maritza, Connie, I think you've got people wanting to be entrepreneurs. And so I guess here's the question. What would you say to someone who's thinking of starting a business but is afraid of the current situation?
I think right now, I think COVID really brought a lot of innovation, a lot of people wanting to start business. So I'd say just go for it. Use all the resources that are in your community and go forward, because if you're able to start a business during a pandemic, it's going to help you build a strong foundation where you're going to make it successful.
Connie?
Yeah, that's correct. Just go forward. One time, I don't know how many years ago, but Mike invited us to speak to young entrepreneurs who are aggressive enough to go into business. So go for it. There will always be challenges, but there's a lot of resources. And one resource that I can recommend is really the Inland Empire Small Business. For anything that you need, they're there to help. Thank you.
So I'll jump ball for the panel. Anybody have advice for someone wanting to start a business right now in the middle of a pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same as with any time of year. I mean, any time it's about feasibility. So it's starting with the feasibility process. It's where we sit down, assemble your team, figure out the GPS for it in the moment. And so in the moment, and it starts with is, what's our break even? What are we looking at? Once we know that, it's about volume and moving product and designing a marketing plan that's going to do that, identifying our customer and really understanding how we're going to add value to that business or into for that customer.
And if I may add to it, I think those who are venturing to go into business, they should have a mission, a vision. They should write their goals and do a business plan.
Connie, that's exactly what I was going to say, but a little bit differently, and that is get the idea out of your head and onto paper. We can visualize perfection, but our dreams don't necessarily pan out perfectly. So by thinking it through on paper, on the computer, working on those numbers, putting together, even if it's just a basic plan, your success will be so much more by taking that little bit of time to plan.
Yeah, and it also goes back to really understanding whether your great idea is really a business opportunity. And we fall in love with our ideas, and the ultimate, students ask me this all the time. They come up with ideas for businesses and they say, "What's Dr. Stoll, what do you think of my idea?" And I said, it feels like a cop-out, because I say, it really doesn't matter what I think of your idea. What matters is the people you're trying to reach, the customers, whether the idea resonates with them, whether it's solving a problem or meeting a real strong need, and whether they emotionally have a connection to what you're trying to do. Because if that's not there, it may seem like it's a great idea to you, but it's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to resonate. And that goes to that process of planning and thinking it through and getting customer feedback and doing all those things. But I would further say that, in times of chaos and economic, sort of confusion and all these things, whether it's because of the COVID or the, fundamental economic challenges, that's a time when opportunity is always born. There's always opportunities to be had in any economic setting. And this is a great time because, again, existing businesses are being upended, business models are being changed, and those that can come in and have new ideas and be innovative and take advantage of it and meet needs and solve problems are going to be successful.
Mike, I'm going to.
Paul, I wanted to, as far as, the SBA and the way here we are today, all of us seeing each other on a little screen, and our business community needs to be mindful of the world has changed. Technology is upon us, the social media, your Alexa, your whatever, smartphones, smart computer, smart cars, smart everything. So, there's that basic need to understand technology, to be able to access these programs and services, maybe for marketing, maybe outreach, networking, as we are doing right now. So, the traditional sense of business has changed. The world has changed. Technology has changed us, so we have to incorporate this technology and move forward. It's only going to get more complicated. It's only going to get more, automated. So our business owners and entrepreneurs have to understand that, we may not be able to walk down the street and meet somebody, but on this computer here, we can meet thousands of people. There's business opportunities for marketing, social networking. So now, this little machine is going to be, like years ago when we first had the telephone and the cell phone, now we have Zoom and webinars and all this great stuff. So it is going to be imperative that our small business community learn how to navigate, the social media, and learn how to use technology, learn how to do all this good stuff, because this is probably going to be much more important in the future.
Thank you, Godfrey. I want to go to a next question, and Mike, I'm going to go to you because you covered the closing of business. So there's a group of questions that I think I would categorize as, how long do I wait? I've got 2 months of runway. Is that, when do I have to pull the plug?
That's a great question, and I'm not sure that there's a right answer. I think, from my perspective, I think as you're sort of looking at the runway you have left and you're doing all the things that you're doing, trying to keep this going, is at the same time, you've got you're thinking about those next steps that you're going to have to take. If we reach the end of the runway and nothing's left, what can we then, it goes back to what Michelle kind of talked about, can we enact the plan that we've got in place? We've got this contingency plan. We've thought about what are the things, the steps we're going to have to take. How long is it going to take us to do this? We've identified the things, that we need, the jobs that we're going to probably need to complete, the customers we're going to need to notify. How can we put all this? I think it's going to be, it's really ultimately, I think goes back to what you said, Paul, is like, how long is the runway? And how long is it going to take us to do all these tasks? And is that, if we get to the end of the run, we're 2 weeks away and nothing's changed and it's clear that, we're running out of runway, then we enact the plan. We know that plan is going to take us a couple weeks, 3 weeks to do all these things. Maybe it's going to even go beyond the cycle, because dissolving the corporation may take a little bit longer than that, but you've got those steps in place. So I think to me, I would go back and say, if I was advising a client, it would be, let's look at your timeline. Let's look at the time that these things need to happen. And we're not going to give up yet, but we're going to put these things in place that we can enact them when the timing is right.
Michelle, and then Paul, do you want anything to add to that?
I'll agree with Mike. That is so hard. It's a hard process to go through. And I think that gaining advice, because again, sometimes when you're in business, you can't see the forest through the trees. So just talking it through with someone and letting, this is hard because you're struggling, and letting someone in to see your struggle and see the whole picture. You've got to let somebody see the whole picture so that they can advise you appropriately. and really look at, and an outside person can look at the situation critically. They can look at it and not, you're personally attached. So by having that second opinion, maybe even third opinion, you've got that that person who isn't emotionally attached to the business. And so just get help, be logical. What's the best for you, your stakeholders. You've got a lot of assessments to make, and just having that outside opinion can help you, potentially help you, make more sound decisions looking at the whole situation.
Okay, Paul?
Start early, don't procrastinate, get on it sooner than later, and really try to separate that emotional factor that is there, that pride and that ego that we sometimes have with these enterprises that we built, right? These are our babies. We don't like to say that they're ugly. So what we need to do is really, reach out, build that network, again, be proactive, start early, and really try to separate that emotional aspect of it.
Yeah, I would just jump in on top of that and remind people, I've had this conversation with entrepreneurs before, is that you are not the business, and the business is not you. That it's, it may be something you're passionate about and you've poured your heart and soul into it, but at the end of the day, you are you. And you're not defined by your business. You're not defined by its success, and you're not defined by its failure. I think it's really important to step back and remember that.
Jeffrey, here's a question for you. It's in that, I think, question about startup, but just how would a person be able to understand trade issues right now with COVID and borders closed and the relationship with China not so good?
Okay.
Where do they go to find out?
Older.
That's a
It's a great question, and in fact, there's actually some quite good news out there. One is that right now the dollar is coming off what we call a high position. So the dollar's been relatively strong over probably about the past 7 or 8 years. And the projections are by most economists that the dollar is going to weaken, which is going to make our products here in the United States more price competitive. And that's a very big barrier for companies from the US or from any country where when the value of their currency is quite high, then you have to compete against products from other countries which are more price competitive. So that is a real positive out there. As far as China is concerned, what we hear in the news is a lot about what's going on politically, but in fact, there was a phase 1 trade deal signed back in January, and there is progress being made. In fact, they reduced tariffs on a number of agricultural items. Agricultural items are moving quite good into China. In fact, there was the largest shipment ever of corn to China back in June. China's economy is growing, and other markets around the world are coming out of COVID sooner than what appears to be happening in the United States. So there's going to be sporadic opportunities in different parts of the world, but I think the bigger message is, and the bigger opportunity is, that if the dollar falls by 10 or 15%, that can drive a lot of demand for finished goods coming out of the US. And one other thing that is somewhat promising is when we've had all the previous recessions as far back as we've been tracking, global trade shrinks dramatically during recession because people perceive everything to be more risky. It shrinks a lot more than the domestic economy shrinks, but it also rebounds faster, and it becomes an engine to pull us back out of the recession. So these are some of the maybe positive things to look at. I think it's still worth companies looking at export as a viable opportunity, just in the right places.
Okay, thank you. Paul and Michelle, a group of questions that I would categorize as how do I go about, which bills do I pay if I only have so much money, I think is the question. How do I prioritize paying my bills?
That's a good question. I'm going to let Paul start.
Yeah, it starts with really analyzing your current state, right? So we need to draw that line in the sand, sit down and examine your financials. And then normally what we're doing, historically is making those 3 and 5 year plans. Well, we need to sit down and make those 30-day, 60 to 90-day plans and prioritize based off of what is our must, what are wants, and what are I can't live without. And in relation to operating your business and staying afloat. Yes, sometimes we have to make those painful decisions to forego some payments, but at the same time, we really want to strategize, because when we get through this in 6 months and we need that credit and we need to extend that credit and we need to get things in place to operate, we don't want to put ourselves in a position because we made emotional decisions versus logical decisions. And the only way to do that is to sit down and map out those numbers. Again, we're not going to turn you into a CPA. That's not our goal, but our goal is to help you understand how each dollar flows through that company. And, again, that 30, 60, 90 plan.
Okay.
Something I'll add to that is communication. People are more flexible right now because of everything that's going on. So, make that plan and get on the phone and communicate, and communicate. Super important.
That goes for all the time, right? Not just in this crisis, but I mean, it's incredibly important in this time of the pandemic and where we're facing, but even in the best of times, having good communication with your lender, with your accountant, with your attorney, if you have those, keeping them in the loop so that they can be a resource, but they're also going to be more forgiving if you're going through a rough patch or you're having difficulty collecting from your customers. And, if you're proactive and communicating, as Michelle said, that's going to buy you some runway. You're going to have some leeway. It's when you don't communicate and you come after the fact that people have less ability to work with you.
Okay. Well, it may not seem like it, but it's been an hour and a half since we started. And I am just extremely grateful to all of the panelists. What a great conversation. I'm grateful to the people who've been watching, and thank you for those questions, even though some of them were very difficult. And know that for those of you that are having issues and struggling, that I think you heard that people are here to help you, and they want to help you. And so we would ask you to take advantage of all of the great resources that you've heard about today. Maritza and Connie, I'm going to ask you for final comments, and then we'll shut it down.
Well, my final comment is just be strong and stay connected, whether it's resources, whether it's your mentors, just be strong and keep on going, because the challenges will always be there, but don't give up. Everybody's here to help you. We are here as a one big community to help one another. So that's my advice.
Thank you, Connie.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And same, pretty much take advantage of all the different resources. Again, the Inland Empire, everybody's connected in one way or another. And most, if not all of the resources are completely free. The only thing that you have to invest is your time, and just always show up for yourself. Even if you don't know anybody in that room or in that virtual space, just go and show up for yourself.
Thank you, Maritza. Again, I'm grateful to all of our panelists, all the resources, to all of you who've been watching today. The title of this webinar is IE Together, and we need to be together. We need to be working together so that we can come out of this pandemic and economic downturn stronger. So with that, thanks to everyone who participated today, and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.